Matthew chapter 25. Here is what the kingdom of heaven will be like at that time. 10 bridesmaids took their lamps and went out to meet the groom. 5 of them were foolish, 5 were wise. The foolish ones took their lamps but didn't take any olive oil with them. The wise one took oil in jars along with their lamps. The groom did not come for a long time, so the bridesmaids all grew tired and fell asleep. At midnight, someone cried out, "Here's the groom, come out to meet him." Then all the bridesmaids woke up and got their lamps ready. The foolish ones said to the wise ones, "Give us some of your oil. Our lamps are going out." "No," they replied, "there may not be enough for all of us. Instead, go to those who sell oil. Buy some for yourselves." So they went to buy the oil. But while they were on their way, the groom arrived. The bridesmaids who were ready went in with him to the wedding dinner. Then the door was shut. Later the other bridesmaids also came. "Sir, sir," they said, "open the door for us." But he replied, "What I'm about to tell you is true. I don't know you. So keep watch. You do not know the day or the hour the groom will come." Again, here is what the kingdom of heaven will be like. A man was going on a journey. He sent for his slaves and put them in charge of his money. He gave 5 bags of gold to one. He gave 2 bags to another, and he gave 1 bag to the third. The man gave each slave the amount of money he knew the slave could take care of. Then he went on his journey. The slave who had received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work. He earned 5 bags more. The one with the 2 bags of gold earned 2 more, but the man who had received 1 bag went and dug an hole in the ground. He hid his master's money in it. After a long time, the master of those slaves returned. He wanted to collect all the money they had earned. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. "Master," he said, "you trusted me with the 5 bags of gold. See, I have earned 5 more." His master replied, "You have done well, good and faithful slave. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness." The man with 2 bags of gold also came. "Masters," he said, "you trust me with 2 bags of gold. See, I have earned 2 more." His master replied, "You have done well, good and faithful slave. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness." Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came. "Master," he said, "I knew that you are a hard man. You harvest where you have not planted. You gather crops where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid. I went out, hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you." His master replied, "You evil, lazy slave. So you knew that I harvest where I have not planted. You knew that I gather crops where I have not scattered seed. Well then, you should have put my money in the bank. When I returned, I would have received it back with interest." Then his master commanded the other slaves, "Take the bags of gold from him. Give it to the one who has 10 bags. Everyone who has will be given more. They will have more than enough. And what about anyone who doesn't have? Even what they have will be taken away from them. Throw that worthless slave outside. Then in darkness people will weep and grind their teeth. The Son of Man will come in all his glory. All the angels will come with him. Then he will sit in glory on his throne. All the nations will be gathered in front of him. He will separate the people into 2 groups. He will be like a shepherd who separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep to his right and the goats to his left. Then the king will speak to those on his right. He will say, "My Father has blessed you. Come and take what is yours. It is the kingdom prepared for you since the world was created. I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you gave them to me. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the people who have done what is right will answer him, "Lord," they will ask, "When did we see you hungry and feed you? When did we see you thirst and give you something to drink? When did we see you as a stranger and invite you in? When did you see you needing clothes and give them to you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" The king will reply, "What I'm about to tell you is true. Anything you did for one of the least important of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did it for me." Then he will say to those on his left, "You are cursed. Go away from me into the fire that burns forever. It has been prepared for the devil and his angels. I was hungry, but you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, but you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, but you did not invite me in. I needed clothes, but you did not give me any. I was sick and in prison, but you did not take care of me." Then they also will answer, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty and not help you? When did we see you as a stranger or needing clothes or sick or in prison and not help you?" He will reply, "What I want to tell you is true. Anything you didn't do for one of the least important of these, you didn't do for me." Then they will go away to be punished forever. But those who have done what is right will receive eternal life. Matthew chapter 26. Jesus finished saying all these things. Then he said to his disciples, "As you know, the Passover feast is 2 days away. The Son of Man will be handed over to be nailed to a cross." Then the chief priests met with the elders of the people. They met in the palace of Caiaphas the high priest. They made plans to arrest Jesus secretly. They wanted to kill him, but not during the feast, they said. The people may stir up trouble. Jesus was in Bethany. He was in the home of Simon, who had a skin disease. A woman came to Jesus with a special steel jar of very expensive perfume. She poured the perfume on his head while he was at the table. When the disciples saw this, they became angry. "Why this waste?" they asked. "The perfume could have been sold at a high price. The money could have been given to poor people." Jesus was aware of this. So he said to them, "Why are you bothering this woman? She has done beautiful things to me. You will always have poor people with you, but you will not always have me. She poured the perfume on my body to prepare me to be buried. What I want to tell you is true. What she has done will be told anywhere. This good news is preached all over the world. It will be told in memory of her." One of the 12 disciples went to the chief priest. His name was Judas Iscariot. He asked, "What will you give me if I hand Jesus over to you?" So they counted out 30 silver coins for him. From then on, Judas watched for the right time to hand Jesus over to them. It was the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The disciples came to Jesus. They asked, "Where do you want us to prepare for you to eat the Passover meal?" He replied, "Go into the city to a certain man. Tell him, 'The teacher says, my time is near. I'm going to celebrate the Passover at your house with my disciples.'" So the disciples did what Jesus had told them to do. They prepared the Passover meal. When evening came, Jesus was at the table with his 12 disciples. While they were eating, he said, "What I'm about to tell you is true. One of you will hand me over to my enemies." The disciples became very sad. One after the other, they began to say to him, "Surely you don't mean me." "Nor do you," Jesus replied. "The one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will hand me over. The Son of Man will go just as it is written about him. But how terrible it will be for the one who hands over the Son of Man. It would be better for him if he had not been born." Judas was the one who was going to hand him over. He said, "Surely you don't mean me, teacher, do you?" And Jesus answered, "You have said so." While they were eating, Jesus took bread. He gave thanks and broke it. He handed it to his disciples and said, "Take this and eat it. This is my body." Then he took a cup. He gave thanks and handed it to them. He said, "All of you drink from it. This is my blood of the covenant. It is poured out to forgive the sins of many people. Here is what I tell you. From now on, I won't drink wine with you again until the day I drink it with you in my Father's kingdom." Then they sang a hymn and went out to the mountain of Olives. Jesus told them, "This very night you will turn away because of me. It is written that the Lord said, I will strike the shepherd down, then the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I rise from the dead, I will go ahead of you into Galilee." Peter replied, "All the others may turn away because of you, but I never will. What I'm about to tell you is true." Jesus answered, "It will happen tonight. Before the rooster crows, you will say 3 times that you don't know me." But Peter said, "I may have to die with you, but I will never say I don't know you." And all the other disciples said the same thing. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane. He said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him. He began to be sad and troubled, and he said to them, "My soul is very sad. I feel close to death. Stay here, keep watch with me." He he went a little farther. Then he fell with his face to the ground. He prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, take this cup of suffering away from me. But let what you want be done, not what I want." Then returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour?" He asked Peter. "Watch and pray that you won't fall into sin when you are tempted. The spirit is willing, but the body is weak." Just went away a second time. He prayed, "My Father, is it possible for this cup to be taken away? But if I must drink it, may what you want me to done." Then he came back. Again he found them sleeping. They couldn't keep their eyes open. So he left them and went away once more. For the third time he prayed the same thing. Then returned to the disciples. He said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come. The Son of Man is about to be handed over to sinners. Get up, let us go. Here comes the one who is handing me over to them." While Jesus was still speaking, Judas arrived. He was one of the 12 disciples. A large crowd was with him. They were carrying swords and clubs. The chief priests and the elders of the people had sent them. Judas, who was going to hand Jesus over, had arranged a signal with them. "The one I kiss is the man," he said. "Arrest him." So Judas went to Jesus at once. He said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and he kissed him. Jesus replied, "Friend, do what you came to do." Then the man stepped forward. They grabbed Jesus and arrested him. At the moment, one of Jesus' companions reached for his sword. He pulled it out and struck the slave of the high priest with it. He cut off the slave's ear. "Put your sword back in its place," Jesus said to him. "Or who used the sword will die by the sword. Do you think I can't ask my Father for help? He would send an army of more than 7,000 angels right away. But then how would the scriptures come true? They say it must happen in this way." At that time, Jesus spoke to the crowd. "Am I leading a band of armed men against you?" He asked. "Do you have to come out with the swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I sat in the temple courtyard teaching, and you didn't arrest me. All this has happened so that the words of the prophets would come true." Then all the disciples left him and ran away. Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest. The teacher of the law and the elders had come together there. Not too far away, Peter followed Jesus. He went right up to the courtyard of the high priest. He entered and sat down with the guards to see what would happen. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for something to use against Jesus. They wanted to put him to death, but they did not find any proof, even though many false witnesses came forward. Finally, 2 other witnesses came forward. They said, "This fellow claimed ever to destroy the temple of God. I can build it again in 3 days." Then the high priest stood up. He asked Jesus, "Aren't you going to answer? What are these charges that these men are bringing against you?" But Jesus remained silent. The high priest said to him, "I am commanding you in the name of the living God. May he judge you. If you don't tell the truth, tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." "You have said so," Jesus replied. "But here's what I say to all of you. From now on, you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One. You will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes. He said, "He has spoken very evil things against God. Why do we need any more witnesses? You have heard him say this evil thing. Why do you think he must die?" They answered. Then they spit in his face. They hit him with their fists. Others slapped him. They said, "Prophesy to us, Messiah, who hit you?" Peter was sitting out in the courtyard. A female servant came to him. "You also were with Jesus of Galilee," she said. But in front of all of them, Peter said he was not. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said. Then he went out to the gate, leading into the courtyard. There another servant saw him. She said to the people, "This fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth." Again he said he was not. With a curse he said, "I don't know the man." After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter. "You must be one of them," they said. "The way you talk gives you away." Then Peter began to curse and said to them, "I don't know the man." Right away a rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered what Jesus had said. The rooster will crow. Jesus had told him, "Before it does, you will say 3 times that you don't know me." Peter went outside. He broke down and cried.